Splendid, and good afternoon all. Welcome again to the Commit Happy Hour. Here Friday the 19th of June, we have Kenny Ingram and Matthew Bridge joining us from IFS to talk us through a little bit about how technology can help us to get back on site and get back into being productive within the construction industry. I think as we go back to work this week and in the following weeks, things will be obviously a little bit different, a little bit difficult, and we've got to take our own risks and try and understand those. And we've got two excellent people here today to have us a chat through some of the technology that's going to be able to help us to do things like that, and also to answer your questions on some of the parts of the subject. I'm going to hand you over to Stuart now, who's going to talk to you a little bit about the Commit community and the productivity group. Stuart.
Thank you, Ian. Welcome to everybody. Thanks to our two presenters today, Kenny and Matt. I'll introduce them in a few seconds, but first and foremost, talk about the Commit community. Commit is a collaboration platform that brings together owners, vendors, academia, and of course, construction companies to collaborate and find better ways of delivering projects. We have a productivity improvement initiative that's been running for quite a while now, and to underpin that, the productivity webinars that we've been delivering each week show some of the best and biggest innovations and how to best use digital technology. We've got a great session for you today from IFS, and before I get to that, I want to talk a little bit about the questions, because questions will pop up all the way through the session. And you've two ways of asking those questions. One is to raise your hand. There's a little icon there on the right-hand control panel. Just click on that, and that will indicate to me that you've got a question. The other way to do that is to type it in the questions box, and I can read it out at the end. If it's a burning question, you need to ask it as we go. Maybe push it a few times, and I'll be alerted to that. We also have an opportunity at the end, if there's still questions. We have a continue the conversation session, which is a free bar, and that's after the hour is up, and you're very welcome to stay behind for that. But before we get into any of that, we have some poll questions to kick the session off, and that's before I introduce Kenny and Matt. But a little bit about the productivity initiative. Commit to Productivity, as I say, it's been running for a little while now. It looks at what productivity does mean to you as an organisation or an individual. Have you got the means to improve productivity? And also looking at other industries to what is making a difference. So if you look at automotive or aerospace, there's lots of great things going on there, and some of that is transferable to what we do in construction. Please do get in touch to discuss how to get involved with the Commit to Productivity initiative, or if you have a project idea, or even if you've got a session that you think might be worthy of us presenting. Again, I'm all ears. So these are the areas that we're focused on. Now, it covers pretty much everything that we believe we should be looking at in construction. There are areas within those titles, those headings. A couple of weeks ago, we had a session on avoiding damage to underground service, and it generated so much interest. The conversation is still running, and we've got a lot of areas that we can look at for potential solutions. It does cost industry quite a lot of money, and I think with the opportunity of getting our heads together, we could potentially provide some solutions. So today's session is how can technology help you perform site work with COVID constraints, and that's brought to us by IFS. I want first and foremost to, just excuse me a second, to launch some poll questions as an introduction. Now, the first couple of questions are curveballs. I know one or two of you seem to like these. It certainly kicks the session off. If I can, I will just ask the first question. Now, It could be construction related, but I can assure you the last few are. But here goes. Now I'll launch this one. How long does it take to move 18 ton of topsoil from the driveway to the back garden by a barrow and spade? Can everybody see that? Can everybody see that?
Yeah, I can see that. Now I've done this probably about, must be a good 15 years ago when I was a bit of a slightly more fit and healthy than I am now. And I've got to say, it took more than 7 beers, that's for sure. I think it was a crate at the least. Yeah, I don't envy your back, that's for sure. We had a barrow. I only had buckets because I went up and down stairs. Wow. Nice and simple.
Just give that another couple of seconds. Interesting results so far. Okay. Right, I'm going to close that up. I'll just let me share the results. So, Kenny, Matt, what do you think?
Blimey, we really have got a bunch of engineers out there, haven't they? Because they've probably gone off and calculated that, put it into a 4D model, and then spat out.
I went for the seven beers option was the one I favoured.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have caveated it with I don't typically do sort of that sort of work, so it probably wasn't full days, and the reality is I probably said 7 beers because I didn't want to look like an alcoholic, but it was probably a lot more beers. But it truly was a team effort.
Well,
it was the family and about 5 of the neighbours. But it was over 2 days and probably over the course of an evening as well. So it was both of those, 2 of those answers.
I've got a message coming from Sammy who said it's 2 days plus. So I don't know what that means, but I'm sure that's a long time. Thank you very much for the for voting on that. Now I've got the next one. If I can just hide that, bring the next one in. Again, it could be construction related, certainly finishings, landscaping and whatever. How long should you leave 160 square meters of newly laid turf before walking on it?
That's it.
You've got an hour. You've got 2 hours a day, 2 days.
How about if you're so drunk that you sort of roll across it in a very useful way? Works for me. Perfect idea.
I need it. I need the answer for someone that's laid turf. How soon can I start to mow it and walk on it?
I've just been on the phone to the Horticultural Society and they've given me the answer, Matt.
How long before you mow a newly laid turf?
About 3 weeks.
That's what I've heard, 3 weeks, but I struggle with that because it's been a week and a half and it's grown like anything, and I'm struggling.
It is.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got an array of results there. So we've got nothing on an hour, 20% 2 hours, nothing on a day, 80% 2 days. Well, I believe it's 2 to 3 weeks. Jerry, what did you have?
2 to 3 weeks.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I've just Googled and it's 3 weeks before you should mow.
There you go.
3 weeks before you should mow. Okay.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long week and a half. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Anyway, let me add that. Move on to the next one. So we've got some very much construction related questions now coming up. Ignoring COVID-19, what disruptors in construction are you most worried about? And they should be on your screen now. So we've got modular, prefab, aging workforce and labour shortage, new entrants to the industry, global competition, BIM and digitisation.
Or I like to think that the disruptor will be some, digitization and things like that. But I get a feeling that we're not quite as globally competitive as we should be. And the fact that people are coming in cheaper, not quite as good perhaps, but the problem is it's always a fight to the bottom on the price. Until we get capable clients, the impact of the rest will become, in my opinion, I think less important than the global competition.
Yeah.
But then if we can't actually, you say, I think ignoring COVID-19, but if we can't bring in a big global workforce to do work. So I suppose that sort of nulls that one. Interesting. I'll be really, really interested to see the result of that.
Okay, I'll finish that one now. Close it up. Let me launch it, or share it rather. So we've got 67% in aging workforce and labour, and 33% global competition. Nothing for BIM and digitisation, nothing for new entrants to the industry. Interesting.
Interesting.
Guys,
and I actually asked this question in a webinar I did in the US last year, and guess what? It was the exact same answer in the US as well.
Wow.
Which is interesting.
Amazing. Okay, let me move on to the next one. Okay, COVID-19 is likely to change what construction companies focus on, which will have the greatest focus by C-level management. Okay, they should see that now. Can everybody see that?
Change.
Yes.
What focus? Ooh, improve financial control. Focus on offering service. I think it's going to be the third one down in my model. It's that service thing. I've seen quite a few contractors out there trying to change what they deliver, and most of them are trying to aim towards from what I see, they're looking to try and change towards a service provider rather than or a solution provider rather than just purely build it. And I suppose that links in with the outcome-driven procurement world that we're trying to push in the BIM sort of world. So yeah, interesting, very interesting.
Yeah, Kenny, Matt, any thoughts?
We're biased. Maybe not. I don't know.
Really?
I don't know. It's a tough question. I mean, I think obviously you're going to get different answers. Depends on the type of business. But I'm actually fascinated to know what this group thinks.
And I think actually, suppose they're all sort of tied in to each other, because you can't really do modular offsite construction unless you've got good information. And you can't really control the FM world, the finances. We're talking about the BIM world as in the proper information management world rather than pretty 3D picture world. So I suppose that sort of includes all three.
So if you were a CEO, what would be the first thing you think of doing?
Money.
that's
Money every time. Show me the money.
Interesting though.
Yeah. Let me just share that now with everybody. Can you see that? 20% off-site, 40% need to improve company and project control. Nothing on increasing offering service and facilities management. 20% the adoption of BIM. 20% none of the above. Right, interesting.
I'll have to find out what that none of the above person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Maybe we can take that to the end of the session, and whoever's contributed to that, then maybe they can jump in and discuss, because it'd be interesting to know. There's only a certain number of questions you can put in, or answers you can put into the polls. So so I was limited to the 5. But yeah, it'd be interesting to chat. Thanks very much for Kenny for putting those together, and thanks to everybody for participating. I think we had nearly 100% tie up on that one. So yeah, maybe one or two didn't, but thank you. Right, okay, moving on. We have introductions. So I've got Kenny. Kenny Ingram is the Vice President for Engineering and Construction, Infrastructure at IFS. And I've got Matthew Bridge, who's a pre-sales consultant at IFS. And I'm going to hand you over to them, give control, and they're going to take us through the main session. I believe there's a live session that Matthew's going to take us through. But yeah, let me pass control over to Matthew. And okay, it should be all yours now, Matthew.
Okay. So hopefully you can see an introductory screen, presentation screen.
Yes, we can.
Yep. Okay.
Super. Okay, so this is the title today. I'll just talk for a couple of minutes and I'm going to hand over to Matt, who's going to take you through the interesting things. So this is the topic. So it's really about focusing on how can we do things remotely, and of course COVID has forced us to think much more about remote working than we did before, and so on and so forth. So let's next slide, Matt. I'm going to put one slide just to introduce IFS to you, because I'm not too sure if you all know who we are. We're part of the comic community, and I guess some of you probably been to our offices at various sessions, but if you don't know who we are, in one simple sentence, we're a global company. We specialize in integrated business software for the construction sector and other sectors, and we kind of have a scope that covers really all the different flavors of construction business units you probably would be involved in. So it's both the build phase, or you might be involved in property management or facilities management or service, or you might be involved in plant, or you might be involved in offsite modular manufacturing. So we cover all of those and all the kind of business types down the left hand side. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to hand over to Matt, who's going to talk specifically about a product we have called the Remote Assistant, and he will introduce what that's about. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Kenny. Okay, so IFS Remote Assist. I'm just going to switch my webcam off as I want to share different devices. Can you see Empower Your Workforce with Remote Assist? Is that on the screen?
Yep, we can.
Yeah, okay. So it's a tool that we've got that I want to talk through, sort of showing how we can enable remote worker capability, providing side-by-side assistance. And how we can combine that with merged reality to help people perform remote work. So it might be that we're having to support subcontractors. Maybe we're asking customers to do things on behalf of us, but it enables us to see what people see on site and be able to talk them through things. So obviously this is really of the now with the current crisis and with the lockdowns from March onwards. It's sort of driven the need for companies to rethink how they perform service and maintenance and FM type provision. And remote assistance is exactly that. It is a virtual hands-on assistance. You can have your experts virtually shoulder to shoulder with your field technicians, contractors, your contingent workforce, or even your customers doing things. So if you look at the example here on the right-hand side, you can see a customer or a technician that needs remote support. So they are there. They can use an iPad or a phone or something to visualize and present back to a remote expert, what they see. So the hand that you see on the iPad is actually the hand of the remote expert. So this guy might be, in another city, another country, but what they can do is they can see what a technician or a customer can see. They can then make hand gestures or use tools or other things, which then gets overlaid, in what we call merged reality. So it's they call it I see what you see. So what are some of the sort of key areas that this might be used? So from a construction perspective, in sort of facility management or building property management or service management, they're all sort of key areas that this technology could be utilized. So again, it's suitable for sort of any sort of EPC, design, procure and install type company. So what are the different use cases? Well, it might be that, you've got subcontractors on site or something, and you actually need to guide them through doing something. It might mean that you don't want to access sites, so you want property owners to walk around and do sort of snag things for you or show you errors so you don't have to attend site. Or it could be, maintenance, where you've even got manufacturers and stuff guiding users on maybe how to fix something, so they can do true remote support without attending site at all. And the nice thing about this tool is anything you do can be recorded, so it means you've got a transactional or business view of what was done that can then act as a proof of service or a proof of support or something like that. So it really is quite a valuable tool. It can also be used for other things. It might be, audits and things like that, certifications, or even down to resource training and things like that. So a really useful tool for being able to manage and help people remotely. There's different ways which it can be used. So team member requests. So this might be, I have a team that I'm supporting. So it allows me to initiate directly with that member of the team and provide guidance to those. It might be that technicians want to ring me on site and they get routed to the most relevant expert at the time. So it's through a call center process. From that, we've got all of our different sort of specialized help desk calls. So again, multiple different help desk groups with maybe different skills can be created, so that when people do ring in or customers ring in, they get routed to the right person that can answer the call. And last but not least, it might be somebody rings up and I, as an expert, can actually just click a button and send them a link. So actually the customer on the end of the phone, I've got a problem with this, can you help me? Sure. You don't want to send someone to site, you want them to triage the call or look at the problem remotely. You can actually send a text message which has a link in, or an email or an invite. They simply click on that and it allows you to then see and interact with the remote expert, as we're going to see shortly. So again, it's a really versatile tool that offers a lot of benefits, even, specifically important in the times of COVID, but going forward, do you really need to send resources to site? Do you always need an on-site presence? If you can provide a response quicker and cheaper, then that's obviously a great thing going forward as well. So let's have a look at this. So I'm just going to connect a couple of devices. So one popping up now. Or 158. And another popping up here. So hopefully you can see a large tablet, and now you can see a phone as well. So we've got different ways that we can interact. The iPad on the right hand side is my expert or my remote engineer, and this device here might be from a subcontractor on site. It might be from a customer. So you've got different ways that we can interact. I could simply go in and I can call an expert, which will then initiate contact with the remote expert. Or if I'm looking from this side, then I can simply go off and push a button and initiate a call. So as I can see here, I've got a call coming in, or I might have sent a link to a customer or a service person on site. What we've got here is when it connects, just bear with me, it's my home Wi-Fi. Okay, first of all, can you see two things at the moment?
Indeed, we can.
That working? Okay, so it's a bit weird because I'm having to do it in the same room, and I am the in this case I'm the user needing help, and I'm also the remote expert. But if I'm looking, you know, at the moment you can see on the left-hand side, it's initiated sort of a FaceTime call. So the expert on the right can see me as a user, a customer, a subcontractor, whatever, ringing up, so we can have a face-to-face conversation, so we can explain the problem or talk through things. On the tablet, I can then decide whether I will give help or whether I need help. So in this case, it's going to be the expert giving help. So they say, I'm going to give help. And what that does is that switches my phone, so the device here, to camera mode. So today I've got not a construction orientated problem, but I've got a problem with let's say my Raspberry Pi or something here. So it could be a snag on a property, it could be something, but I've got a problem with something here that I need help with. So what you can see is when I move my phone around, you can see that the iPad can see what I can see. So on this case now, I can highlight over the thing that I've got a problem with, and I'm going to select freeze. And what that does is it takes a picture and freezes the image so that now I can actually put my phone down, and if I'm switching across to my expert engineer, so I'm going to just bring a sign there, so I'm now acting as the remote expert. And what this is, what's really nice about this is I can start to interact. So I've got my iPad on my desk, I can do different things, I can use tools, I can use different hand gestures or show different things, but it's in effect taken the image from the left-hand side, so what was on the phone device, and it's now presented it to the expert, who could be hundreds of miles away, so they can now help triage and diagnose. And I can actually do other things here as well, so really cool things. So you can start to maybe do overlays and arrows, so say, have a look at that. By the way, can you see that has now, it's not connected to anything? And I might want to say, well, okay, maybe you should have a look, you know, should it be connected maybe somewhere here? There seems to be a bank of things that I might want to do. Or rather than arrows, I can just go and use free text, and I can go and draw on something. And I can maybe say that should maybe have to go in there or something like that. So you can use different mechanisms to try and explain things to an engineer, as well as talking over voice, as well as me pointing and saying, but by the way, there's you know, there's that thing there, maybe it needs to go somewhere there, you know, or if it was a cog or something needs to be turned, you can use hand gestures and things to actually help resolve a problem. But you can do more than that. So from an expert perspective, I might want to share information with the end user. Apologies, Alexa, turn on office light. So we've got other things that we can do here. So I can actually open up and retrieve documents, again from a different repository. So I might be looking through specifications, and what's happened, what it does automatically is you can see on the right hand side, so the iPad here, that I'm actually scrolling through. I'm maybe looking at specifications or product things, or diagrams of what I might need to do, and then I can actually say, okay, I'm going to focus on here. I might want to zoom into that. I'll tell you what, let me share that now. So I'm going to share that page. I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to just highlight those two things. So again, I'm helping the user. I'm either showing against the actual image they said, or I'm actually able to overlay information, bring up product manuals, then annotate and do things over the top of that as well. So it really is an effective way of being able to communicate with subcontractors or other people to try and investigate and resolve problems. So now if I come back to here, I can switch back to face-to-face and I can say, right, okay, so I understand what the problem is, so I'm going to just quickly do what you've recommended and pop that in. So just bear with me. And I'm now going to maybe switch it on, and I can then present again. And I can switch to receive help. Sorry, let's just switch to that. Sorry, network's gone a bit slow. Okay. No. Okay. I'm going to leave. Well, I don't know. Are we still on the call? Can you still see me or hear me?
We can, yeah. You're breaking up a little bit, but I think it's okay. Yeah.
I am breaking up. I'm going to come back to the PowerPoint. Apologies.
I'm really impressed that you did a live demo there. That's awesome.
I have told the kids to get off everything else, so I've got Wi-Fi fully reserved. The problem is we're screen mirroring from multiple devices and also sharing this and also showing screen. So it's quite a feat, I have to say.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can see the robot and we're back to the PowerPoint now.
Yeah, it's coming over loud and clear, Matt, to me. I can see everything, so yeah.
Okay. But hopefully what you got to see was that we can do quite a lot of things with the call. We're trying to get away from just verbally helping people, and things or tools such as IFS Remote Assist allow us to really do so much more. So they sort of say that it's about 22% more effective by actually using tools like this or using the annotations and the gestures to really make it easier when you're communicating with engineers or people out on site. You can do other things as well. It doesn't just have to be a two-way conversation between an expert. You can actually dial someone else into the call. So if there were any real issues and you needed somebody else to help and assist, you can also dial them in and start to work out and show other participants. So again, we've got the concept of a giver, a receiver, and an observer. Other things about this, the solution will automatically or dynamically adjust the quality of video based on the quality of the connectivity. So, you know, obviously when you're out on site or if you're working in certain harsher environments, the data quality won't be as good. So this flexes with that, to the point that if you are working where you don't have a connection, you know, the ability to take pictures to then move somewhere where there's a better connectivity or a Wi-Fi signal, to then be able to make a call to a remote expert, bring up a photo of the image that you've taken and allow someone to view that and then annotate over the top of it, really means that you can work in any sort of environment to still get help. So it's a really, really powerful solution. Again, you know, if you've got the different visual aids or you've got the different guides and things like that, it can really help me, you know, overcome things. So overcome, you know, you don't have to be a techie. You know, this was a case of a Raspberry Pi or something. It doesn't really matter if you've got a pen or a finger telling you what you need to do, where you need to push, or the sequence in order to do sort of thing. So this is the whole thing of it being a visual aid, supporting hand gestures and other things that allows us to significantly increase resolution. So as we see here, you know, it's giving quite a percentage uplift compared to just simple video with telestration. You know, off the back of this as well, which is quite good for training and other things like that, we can actually get or capture, you know, the number of calls in day, how many people you supported. You know, and the reality is that remote experts such as this, they might have been able to go out and do, you know, 2-3 site visits in a day, or audits or property surveys or something like that. You know, now you could potentially do a lot more. You could be into your 10s or something like that if you're just helping and ringing up people and doing it from a remote position. You know, just to bring a customer example into this, we've got a customer, Munters. One of their facilities has been closed or put into lockdown and they weren't able to send engineers. So they still had customers that required a service. So, you know, they do big machines. In this case, this is a large purification machine used in sort of food production. So they, you know, they have to still make sure that this is maintained or has some of the visual checks and inspections and the things that they need in order to carry on supporting customers. You know, what they were able to do was, you know, with less than 2 hours training per tech, they rolled out to 200 techs to over 22 countries in just 2 weeks, giving a 20% technician efficiency. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. You know, it took something like 6 days to put 30 different technicians through a pilot before they went out to, you know, fully see the advantages of using a tool such as this, certainly in the current climate, and then actually roll it out to the rest of the business. So it's something that can be adopted and onboarded quite quickly and easily. Very intuitive. So that was a very quick presentation or demonstration on how technology can help, certainly in construction orientated industries, for, you know, certainly the challenging times now where people might not be able to access site, but you still need to do business and support people, or at least going forward where you might want to be more focused on cost savings and things like that, and it's tools such as this that can really help you provide a service whilst reducing cost. Hopefully you found that interesting.
Fabulous,
Brilliant.
thank you.
That was fantastic, Matt. Really, really good indeed. I'm, you know, I really am blown away by how far the technology has come, and just how people have imagined a better way of working on site and being able to deliver that. That's really good stuff. Very impressive. So, have you seen what kind of take up have you seen on sites kind of culturally? Are people accepting this way of working, or are they sort of still fighting that's not how we've always worked, so therefore what's the sort of the cultural feel on site?
I mean, the reality is COVID has sort of forced this on people. So there isn't necessarily a choice. So people are still having to provide a service or keep their customers going, or still do some form of, maintenance checks, or some sort of provision. So the reality is, they've been forced to sort of take this. Munters, weren't actively looking for something like this, but they have sort of said, what technology solutions are out there to help us do this? And the reality is that once they started investigating, it's an absolutely no-brainer. But it sounds awful, but it's taken something like COVID to make people, look at different ways of working. You could argue that's the same for any company at the moment, with everybody working from home or remotely. Everyone's had to adopt Teams and sort of technology to help them do things on a day-to-day basis. So I think this is just an extension of that, really.
Yeah. So you're finding people using their own devices, or are these kind of, it's like a bring your own device type thing, or are they using company devices?
That's why this is great. So, if I'm a customer and I ring up and say, right, I've got a problem, no problem. They can just send you a text message or a link, and you just, as long as you've got a web-enabled device, you can click on a link, click on a text, and you're then having that two-way conversation. So you don't have to actually install anything. There's no overhead from that perspective. If you were a subcontractor or you're a part of a tech team, you might want to install the app and it makes it a bit more usable. But if a customer just rings up, I'll just send you a link. You click on the link and you're then taken or drawn into that conversation. It really is that simple.
And that really helps you with a lot of things, because you don't really necessarily know what device that person's going to have, whether it's going to be a laptop, whether it's going to be an iPad, whether it's going to be a Samsung device, or as we move a little bit further forward into things like the, what's the visor thing?
HMDs, head-mounted displays and things like that.
Yeah, what's the Microsoft one that everybody seems to be bouncing around with?
So you've got multiple ones, but you've got the HoloLens is the main one from Microsoft, but then you've got sort of other solutions, from other companies such as Zebra and stuff that are coming out. But wearables is an interesting thing. It always seems to be quite cost prohibitive. But actually now, with technology coming down and things such as remote assist like this, you can combine that into wearables as well. It sort of gives a bit more of a compelling event. And I think people are now, again, a bit more receptive to different ways of working.
So there's just as a thought, something that I've been writing a little bit about on recently is sort of having a library of things. Obviously, you've solved somebody's problem. Being able to record that you've solved somebody's problem this way and given them this particular advice. So in 5-10 years time, or whatever it is, you're looking through the records. Why did we do that? Why did we change it from X to Y, Z? Aha, I've got my, somebody has talked me through, somebody who is accredited by that company has talked me through adjusting something, playing with something, changing something. So when I've installed it, we know that it's a different installation than what was actually documented in the first place, and we know why and who accredited it. So I'm presuming there's some sort of recording type.
It goes even further than that. So I didn't get a chance to show it at the end, but every call can be recorded and made available. But again, we can tag the calls, so you can use it as a knowledge base to help internal resources as well. So it's not just helping the customers and recording it and maybe tracking the fact that you did this on this date and you've maintained, if you're doing remote maintenance and things like that, that can be used as a proof mechanism to say it was done on that day. But also it can be used as a training mechanism, or you can tag things to help your experts or your other community. So it's a really great tool.
What I was thinking on that is the kind of the transition between the old workforce and the new workforce. The old workforce has got loads of knowledge up here, loads of skills and memory and everything. New workforce coming along doesn't necessarily know everything about that site, because nobody ever actually documents this is the specific way of doing something, because this is the way this bit of machinery works, because it's a little bit quirky. And having the ability to sort of record that conversation to pass on to the next generation of people as we go through, that's really powerful. I
think it goes back to Kenny's, was it the first or the second question, where one of the points there, which I think is going to be tough, is the aging workforce, and you might not have the skills coming in.
Yep.
So if this means that one person can now do a lot more work remotely, it's a mechanism to get us through the problem of people retiring whilst we're still training people up and making sure they've got the relevant skills.
Yeah, and I suppose when you look at the current crisis, the COVID crisis, that slightly older workforce are going to be the ones with the health crisis, or the slightly older world. The fact that they will be self-isolating, they won't be the first wave of people back to work.
Yeah.
So the ability to really help the young generation who are now going in, finding that they haven't got, the expert, the old expert on their shoulder. They can't turn around and ask a question of, how did you do this, and whatever it might be. To be able to have that remote backup and support, that's fantastic. To be able to get a lot of companies back up on running, that's really good. I like that.
I mean, a customer used an analogy the other day that I hadn't really thought of, but again, it's a great use of the tool, and that was for just internal training and auditing of resources. So rather than having to send someone out on site, they just ring them up and say, right, I'm joining you for your next job. We're going to do it this way, and I'm just going to watch. I want you to explain the process as you're going through it. And in essence, you've just done a remote audit of staff to make sure that they're conforming to all the right processes and regulations. It's a great, I hadn't thought of that in that context, but now I think that's a brilliant use of the tool.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, guys, I've got some questions. First one I've got here. I'm sorry to sound like an ex-London football manager, but I didn't see that technical glitch that you talked about, Matthew, at the beginning. But this is as far as I'm concerned, you didn't have one, so I didn't see it. But how does the solution perform in low connectivity environments? I think I know the answer, but do you want to fire back on that one?
So this is the one. So it will dynamically adjust the resolutions and stuff to make sure it can meet. It obviously can't compete with a PS4 or my son downloading update or whatever he would do. But it will dynamically adjust based on the bandwidth and the connection that you've got. But as I say, if you're working in a really sort of environment where you don't have anything, it enables someone to go out, to take a picture, to then maybe come back where they've then got a Wi-Fi connection or something like that, or a better connection, and still then do that remote assist by sharing the image that they've done.
Yeah, so it adjusts accordingly. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's something else, because normally when there's something else going on, it just wipes out what you're doing, which is the priority.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all suffered from that. I mean, turning the webcam off was something we had to do with regularity, but of course, as things have improved, we don't have to do that as much now. And we can still maintain some quality on the audio. So that's great. I mean, that's something that's obviously been thought about and has been factored in. So fantastic. The other thing is, I know one of the questions we had in the poll questions is thinking about construction companies and going forwards. Is there some thoughts on increasing the focus to what construction companies might do post-COVID? I mean, this is one thing, but is there some other things that you're thinking about as well besides this?
I think we had the question about servitization as a buzzword these days, but I think one of the interesting things that's it become obvious now is that it's a bit like software companies like ourselves. If your revenue stream is based on repetitive maintenance, or you've got SaaS revenue, then your business isn't affected as much by this type of disruption. And the same applies, I guess, to construction companies, because if you're a pure construction business and all you're doing is new build or lumpy projects, and the minute you get a situation like this, you don't have necessarily a very strong repetitive revenue stream, so your business is much less robust. So I think this is a trend that is already happening anyway, I think, but this might accelerate that trend towards companies providing a complete service offering through the entire asset life cycle. So this type of technology is part of that story, I guess, in terms of, and I guess one of the things I would say is that we're talking here a lot about maintenance and service, but there's no reason why this technology shouldn't be used for installation tasks and construction tasks, commissioning tasks, so any type of task that's done on site and people need assistance. So I think that, to me, the servitization thing is definitely, and we hear about this in the BIM world with contracting for outcomes. I think it's not just driven by the company's desire to have a more robust business, but also the client, I think, is driving us towards saying, I want you to take ownership of the asset and provide me with a service rather than buying a building, for example. So I think both the client and the construction companies themselves are kind of moving more towards a true service-based business, and I think that's really where we're moving to.
Sure. So one of the questions as well. I mean, we talked about what might come in the future, but you guys operate globally. What do you see as some of the bigger trends that are going to develop in the next few years? What are your thoughts on that? What are we likely to encounter?
Yeah, I think to me there's three things we see happening, and one is the servitization journey. I think UK is possibly further ahead in that journey than many other countries. Certainly in the US, there seems to be less of a slower trend towards construction companies providing a through life offering, but I think UK is more advanced in that thinking than certain other countries. I think obviously the whole offsite and modular type thing is definitely gathering a lot of pace, right? And of course you can't take away the digitization, just modernization of the industry in general. I mean, the use of technology, like we've been showing today, is starting to accelerate, but it's still very immature as an industry. But therefore, there's huge room for robotics and automation and AI and BIM and all these technologies, drones and so on that we talk about in this particular forum. I think are going to really start to take off, but we're still very much, I think, at the beginning of that journey. So I think those are the three trends I see, and it's kind of offsite, it's kind of changing the business model, doing less work on site and doing more work offsite, and it's kind of then and the kind of general servitization model. So I think those are the three big things that are gathering pace at different speeds, I think, in different locations. It's always interesting when I speak to the US. The US do perceive that they are behind the UK in terms of modern thinking, which is always interesting when I get asked that question. But they do quite often ask me, well, you guys are much more ahead than we are. So maybe that's a good thing.
We are in some respects, but behind in others.
Of course.
I think in respect of collaboration, we're a little bit behind the curve on that, but we are ahead on some other things, and certainly government incentives help. I think in the UK drive things forwards, and that's potentially become the envy of other places. But no, it's always good to share ideas, because of course sharing ideas and collaborating on things help results sooner, if you like. And things like what you've developed here, I think is a great thing, because it now, I mean, in the past this was something that we could only think about, and if you think about other industries, this solution would also fit there as well. I mean, think about automotive, for example, and even the amateur car mechanic, and he's trying to do some work, he could share, and it's very powerful, because things can get done rather than, I mean, the go-to at the moment is go and look at a video on YouTube, and you may or may not understand it depending on whether the cameraman is any good, whether he's put any voiceover on it or not. But fantastic to see what's been developed, and provide a solution.
Yeah, I think the beauty of the solution Matt's showing here is it's quick to deploy, you know, and it's not complicated, and that's quite often the constraint with technology. We talk about AI and all these clever technologies, but sometimes they go, bloody hell, this is hugely complicated and really expensive, and it's going to take me too long, ages to get it operational, and I'm not going to gain any benefit quickly. So I think this is a really nice little simple solution that can be put in very quickly, as Matthew demonstrated there, and actually give you very quick return on investment. So I think it's which is quite rare rare for technology solutions.
And also take out the lag that you get when you get a problem, because you have to ask the question, you've got to describe it, and it may not be fully understood at the other end. And here we have something where you've got it real time, visual with sound. I mean, that's first class. So
I mean, even if it's a 3-minute triage, to make sure that if somebody does have to attend a site, they know exactly what they're going to do and they're going to fix it first time.
Yeah.
You know, that's the expensive thing, is getting people out to sites and doing things. Now, if you have to send them back because they can't resolve it first time, that's not just a problem in cost. It also means that you've probably got an unhappy customer or client or someone else, because again, they've now got to wait around for someone else to come back and fix it. So I think
even so, with that, Matthew, you still, I mean, even if you get a specialist out, they might have to refer to somebody else, and if they've got to travel out and travel back, then the resolution might not be immediate. It might, you know, there might be some other lag or delay. So yeah, great. We haven't got any more questions unless anybody else has got anything to add.
I was going to say, I think we can probably all relate to that particular problem over the last couple of months with this situation, because all of us will have had our parents or our grandparents, or I'm looking at Kenny here, who's just become a grandparent again. We've all had them on the phone. They've all kind of like been trying to use Zoom or something like that to talk to us. But trying to describe what button you need to press and where you need to look for things on the screen, and have you got it turned on, and where is the microphone button, etc., 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 etc. Oh, so frustrating and so time consuming, and you end up getting upset with each other. But having something like that, I think it's something that everybody can relate to in this particular crisis, is being able to have a view on what's happening and to be able to overlay that and talk through the problem and the solution with somebody in a clear and concise way. I mean, I know I've had that conversation so many times since the crisis has started. So, you know, yeah, where do I sign up? Splendid.
So we have another question. Do we have another question? No. Here's the comment. Thank you, Gary, for that.
I've got to disappear.
A read comment.
I've got to disappear quite smartly tonight, I'm afraid, chaps. So I will leave you with Stuart and Jerry in the lockdown, inside the lock-in on the lockdown, for a few more drinks. But I shall firstly thank you very much for a very, very informative session today. Certainly given us a good bit of hope on the uptake of technology and being able to give that remote support, not only to the you know, the current generation, but also to the next generation as well. But I should just wish you all a very happy weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Good health. And don't.
Cheers. Ian.
Cheers.
Take care all. And I shall leave you with Stuart and Jerry. Take care all.
Okay. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Ian. Cheers now. Bye-bye. So we have no more questions, guys. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add before we move on, or maybe we close up. Normally at this time we have a few questions, but we seem to have asked them all or answered them all. Obviously a very thorough presentation, guys.
Good.
So yeah. So listen, if there's any more questions come in, just give me a second to just advance through the slides. I just want to make mention, well, thanks to you guys anyway. I'm not closing up just at the second. I just want to advertise the next couple of sessions if I can. We've got a session next week, which is an animated vision for safety briefings. Now, this takes things to a whole new level. If anybody's sat on projects and they've been involved in the safety briefings, which sometimes can take, you know, over half a day, 3/4 of a day, and in some situations a bit longer than that. That's well worthy of looking into. And then we've for the next few weeks, we've got LiDAR and SLAM. That's a presentation to look at how that can add value. Trimble are coming along on the 10th of July. They're going to talk about the future. What does that look like? And then, of course, on the 17th, we've got the class of your own, the next generation. So all exciting stuff coming up. And just go to the next slide. So a question I keep getting asked over and over is the recordings of the sessions, are they available? Yes, they are. They're on the website. Usually a day or so later, we get them up there. So everything from the past is recorded and kept. And of course, continue the conversation. But we haven't got any more questions, so nobody's getting a free drink, sadly. But no, it's been a good session. I really appreciate. I mean, live demonstrations are always a good way of getting the message over. And thanks, Matthew, for organising that. I think that worked really well.
Good.
And as I said, I'm thinking, you know, just a little bit further than you know, not just the hustle and bustle of a construction project where you're trying to get resolution to problems, but you know, where else can it be applied? It can be applied in a lot of places, and you know, great to see. So I've nothing else to add. Jerry, have you got any thoughts? Do you want to add anything to today? And you got any questions for Matt or Kenny?
No, it was just a very enjoyable webinar. Thank you, but no questions.
Pleasure.
No problem at all. Pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, guys. I'll post the webinar will be up on the website by Monday morning at the latest. You know, if there's anything else comes in between, I'll let you know. Yeah, I've got another thank you that's just come in from one of the attendees. Very informative session. Thank you. So, without anything else, I'll close up. But thanks again for organising and presenting.
No
Brilliant.
problem at all. Thanks, Jerry.
Keep safe, everyone. Keep safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye bye.